with some people who like bees. Bees. They're going to give you the buzz on the bees. All right. Anyway, very good. So I'll let everybody introduce themselves. Mr. Tom, you're first.
Oh, okay. I'm Tom Haynes. I'm a member of the Mark Twain Beekeeper here in, well, this area. We named it Mark Twain for a reason because we have members in Texas County, Reynolds County, Shannon County, and Denton County.
That's a lot of counties.
Yeah.
But that's, of course, Mark Twain goes all over.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
that's a good idea. Okay.
I am Brenda Gamblin. I am a member of the Mark Twain Beekeepers Club as well, kind of the unofficial event coordinator. So I'm the one that takes care of putting things together.
Unofficial.
Absolutely unofficial.
Unofficial event coordinator. All right, Brenda. Anyway, we're getting together. Well, first off, how long the Beekeepers, Mark Twain Beekeepers, been around?
We have had this discussion. A couple of our members have as much experience as 40 plus years.
Yeah.
But as far as the club goes, probably roughly 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was going to say 7.
So we had a lot of individual beekeepers out there, and you guys finally got them all to say, hey, you know what, maybe we should organize a club and let everybody in on each other's secrets.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Each other, because beekeeping, what's Mike Credit's favorite line?
Bees don't read books. So there are lots of materials
good
out
line.
there. You hear lots of what worked for me,
And
that
didn't
sort of
work
thing.
for me.
Right.
And we have found that even within our, we say roughly 50-mile radius of beekeepers for the club, we have found even some of us that live as close as Tom and I are maybe 10 miles from each other. What works for me does not work for him, but what has been completely successful for him has not been for me, and a lot of our club members are that way. It also gives you the opportunity to know things to try. He reads different sources, he does different research. I go to some of the more national events, conferences, that sort of thing, so then I bring information back to the club and we put it to trial and error and experience. And when we have that many beekeepers and that many hives, we can try something and take the risk of losing a hive, and typically when we try things, we already know that there's that risk anyway, so what have you got to lose at that point?
Right. I know, years ago, I had an interest in bees a long time ago, and I didn't know anything about them. So, we had a little hive, and, we had, I'd say, a small amount of bees. It was actually on the back of a wood pile that they had made their hive, and it was pretty well secluded. I mean, it was like 3 layers deep, so this one wasn't being used, and it had been there for a while. And every time I'd cut the grass, I noticed there'd be a lot of bees around, but my dad had flowers, and we had some different things. I mean, you never knew, but it seemed to be a lot of bees right there. So anyway, I got interested in it, but eventually, of course, the frost, it got the hive.
Yeah.
It got really cold that year, and it killed it. But the next year they weren't there. But the whole, the whole structure of that hive was still there, and it was very interesting to me. I'm thinking, that's a lot of work. They call them worker bees for a reason, because they do a lot of work.
Yes, they do.
Well, that was the only really experience I had with bees. So I talked to mom and dad about it. They really weren't pretty keen on the idea of having, me trying to raise bees in the back. But we ended up underneath, later on, about another year later, I was cutting the grass and I came across bees, but I couldn't see anything. I could not find a hive. But we had a tremendous amount of bees in our backyard. Couldn't find them. Literally could not find them until I got stung. I was like, what the heck am I getting stung for? Right, cutting grass. I'm in the middle of my yard. They had built the hive underground.
Yeah.
Okay, and they had 3 emergency exits. So if you think you're going to go stop that one entrance, they're coming out the other way, and they're not liking you for clogging up that one. So it's like hearing a bunch of zzz around your ears. But I learned to respect that. So I left them alone, but I knew that they were there. Once you know they're there,
Right.
you're fine. But
Well, those are bumblebees.
yes,
And unfortunately, they can sting you more than once.
yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
the one only got me one time,
Okay.
and I think I killed him. So, but you learn. There's so much about bees that the normal everyday person just doesn't really know.
I knew nothing when I joined the Mark Twain Beekeepers Club.
Well, what got you into it then?
That's kind of a long story, but we'll start with my dad had apparently gotten bees at a young age before I was ever even thought of, from an uncle of his.
Okay.
Things happened and he lost them that first winter. And so then after he'd had some medical issues, heart attack and stroke, and could no longer take care of the farm life that he was used to, he said, I'm going to get some honeybees. I'm going to start a hive again. And I kind of thought, yeah, all right, I'll suffice this as long as he's thinking about it. He'll forget by next week. He did not forget. I showed up at his house, and there was this huge box in the living room floor, and he had already opened it and retaped it back and took everything out of it that was identifiable, and he said, got you something to put together. And so I sat down on the floor, and I had to figure out how to put it together, and it was a box with no lid and no bottom. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, and I went, this is a beehive. And he said, yep, and your bees will be here next week. Oh, okay. So then I rushed around that week. I drove to Springfield to a bee class that I had found online, some different things. Just got lucky, and Mark Twain Beekeepers was hosting a meeting. And it was at Tom's and Sally's, and they were extremely welcoming, invited me right on in. And here I am. I'm now the unofficial event coordinator.
Yeah.
And I have four.
So you're a
four active
UEC
hives.
is what you are.
Yes.
UEC. So very good. Well, I mean, but that's kind of how sometimes people, they don't intend to get involved, but they do by accident.
Yes.
And then when you get involved, all of a sudden it stirs your interest and you just can't let go.
No, that is very true. There's nothing that I don't learn new every year, every what we call honey season or bee season. We're all learning something new from each other.
Now, how long have you been doing it, Tom? It's been quite a few years.
About
now.
as long as the club has been in existence.
Okay.
And I got started because, Sally grows pumpkins every
Right.
fall to sell. And we said, well, if we had bees, we could probably get better pollination.
Oh,
And
that's true.
that was it. We've been at it ever since.
Well, I remember when you first brought in honey, and I didn't even know you were a beekeeper at that point. And he brought me in a little jar of honey bear honey, and I said, "What's this?" And he goes, "This is honey from my hive." I didn't even know that. That's when you were doing that other job,
Yeah, yeah.
So, did anything with your knowledge of the Mark Twain National Forest and with your other job that we talked about, did any of that, when you were going through the forest and seeing things, did you ever cross some beehives, or did you run across different things that said, I'm really interested in that?
Not when it comes to bees. No, the latest thing was a little over a year ago, Jeremiah Privet was looking at a power line project that's going through the forest. It was late fall, and he came across Devil's Club. So big, sticky plant with big thorns
Oh,
on it.
yeah, okay.
And it was covered with honeybees. And I said, because it was blooming at the time.
Yeah, okay.
And I said, give me a copy of that where it's at on the map. And so last year I missed the opportunity, but this spring I want to go out and take some traps out in that area and see if I can trap some bees. I shouldn't say, I hate the word trap. Lure some bees, because bees naturally want to swarm. And when they swarm, they're looking for a new home. So what you're doing is you're putting a new home out there that says, hey, check out my hotel. This is great, and then you take them home. So you're not really trapping them per se, like you would a raccoon or something like that.
So the Haynes honeybee home,
Yeah,
right?
and because, again, in fact, our last meeting last Monday, we got a big discussion on genetics. And it's crazy. And in fact, I just looked at one of the other members and went, yeah, they're way over my head when it comes to genetics. But if the bees have done well in the wild, that means they probably have some very good genetics. And that's why I would like to do that.
Well, we've heard scientists say that the bee population has gone down in the United States because a lot of people have eradicated the bees from their area, totally eradicated them, and which is not a good thing when it comes like just what you're talking about when you talked about with Sally and her pumpkins, pollination. You still need that for the healthy growth of plants.
Oh,
And
yes.
bees,
And food.
especially flowers, bees are your key ingredient to make that happen. And by eliminating them, because I don't see half as many bees as I used to.
Yeah.
I used to see a lot, and I just don't see them out there. So, there's a need to protect our bees, and they are a vital part of our food chain, right?
Right. I think, is it 1/3 of all the food production in the world is due to what they call pollinators, more than just honeybees or bumblebees. And curious trivia, did you know that honeybees cannot pollinate tomatoes?
No, I did not know
No,
that.
you need a bumblebee. The honeybee is not big enough, weight-wise. And it's little stupid stuff like that that you don't even think of.
Do they know that? Because they don't read books, remember?
Yeah, they don't read books, but there's a role for them. So when you see bumblebees, there's a role for them. When you see, is it carpenter bees?
Yes.
There's a role for them, and we may not be aware of what that role is, but there is.
They're annoying to us
Oh,
when they're
yes.
around and I think they're most annoying because of the sound. Because you hear that buzz go by your head and it grabs your attention real fast.
Oh yes,
It does. And the fact that they bore into your wood, a lot
Yeah.
of
Well,
people.
right.
So,
yeah.
You know,
Or they're right outside your door in the ground,
right.
and you
No.
got kids running around. You don't want that to happen.
No, that's true. When I was at least when I found my hive in the ground, I was old enough to know not to go back and say, "Look at these pretty bees that I found." It's just, but I let them be. They've got their job to do. I got my job to do, and as long as they know when I'm cutting grass, I'm coming once a week, and I'm by and I'm gone. Leave me alone. And they didn't bother me.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about bees is, if you're respectful of them, they're respectful of you. And now, as I jokingly tell people, if I broke into your house and started throwing things around, what would you do?
Yeah.
You said, I'd get my gun and take care of you. I said, well, that's what a bee's doing when you go into their hive. They're defending their territory. So
And
the
we
bees do know that they only have one opportunity to sting you.
Right.
And that their life is over. They're not out to end their own life. So we joke about one of the other beekeepers throwing gravel at you, because that's really what it feels like and sounds like in your bee suit, is that someone is throwing gravel at you. And they're just bouncing off of you and letting you know you're in their territory and they've had enough and they want you to leave. They will sting, and once you're stung once, you're getting multiple stings if you don't leave the area.
Right.
But they give you the opportunity to know that they've had enough.
Yeah. I always call it the bees give you a buzz by and let you know time for you to go.
We teach
You
new
know.
beekeepers when they open their hive to listen for the sound change. When the temperature changes, when they know you're in, their sound changes. And it's not a noticeable sound unless you're truly looking for it. But they will let you know that they've had enough.
Yep.
So it's bees are very interesting. And Tom, you've been producing honey now for 7 years, right?
Yes,
About
that's-
7 years. So how much honey do you get out of your bee hive collection?
last year was a very good year for us, and I want to guess we probably got about 5 gallons of honey.
It's a lot of work by bees to give you 5 gallons of honey. Isn't it?
Oh, it's a tremendous lot of work by bees. I forgot what the stats are about how many bees and how many trips it takes just to get, a cup of honey. It's outrageous. I wish I could. I don't remember things like that.
Yeah,
Right.
but there's a lot of information about that. Now, have you increased your hive since you got started?
Well, last winter I went into the winter with 10 hives. I came out with 6.
That's not increasing.
No. This year I went into winter with 9 hives. I was checking them the other day during the warm weather. I've already lost 1. But that's just the way it goes. It's and you lose them for all kinds of reasons. From starvation to pests such as varroa mite,
Right.
to the fact that maybe the hive and the queen is at its end, and it's just that's it. And again, that's why bees swarm. That swarming is actually the bee's way of propagating. even though the queen's laying eggs, there's lots of bees being born all the time. That hive, if you think of it as a single body, the only way it propagates is by swarming. And so that's the reason, you want to. Some people actually want their bees to swarm for that very reason, that we get more bees. Some people will go on and they'll clip the queen's wing, and of course that prohibits her from swarming because they're not interested in that. They only want the honey, which, it's like livestock. Why are you raising cows? Well, I think they're pretty. Why are you raising cows? Because I want to sell it on the market.
Yeah.
Different beekeepers have different goals.
Okay. Brenda, you were researching something.
I was looking it up. The average honeybee will actually make only 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in its lifetime.
1/12.
1/12.
And it does a lot of hard work for that 1/12.
Yes. They'll forage up to 2 miles away.
Yeah. That's a lot of work. But anyway, we get the benefit of their hard work and
Yes.
getting to enjoy the honey. And one of the reasons why we're talking a little bit about this is because if you're interested in bees or think you might be interested in bees, Mark Twain Beekeepers are going to offer a bee class, a beginner bee class, to give you all this vast information that they've learned.
Yes.
Well, maybe not all of it.
We
we're still
give you
learning.
the information to become a first-year beekeeper. We will take you through getting your bees, getting them started, what to be looking for through bee season, and dependent on what your goal is. Is your goal to increase bee populations and let your bees swarm? Is it to get honey, or is it just simply a hobbyist thing? I do take honey from my hives. I have not gotten near what they have gotten. I just enjoy the bees, and I enjoy the bee club and the knowledge that I gain from that. So I don't really have any end goal as far as those that have pollination goals or honey goals. But we do give you all of the information to become a good, successful beekeeper in the first year. We don't do, as of right now, we haven't done any advanced classes. The hope is that once you get started, you kind of join the club, and then you get information each month from the club as to what needs to be done this month or in the upcoming months. We have our experienced beekeepers, so Greg is kind of our main man. He's our unofficial president. We don't have any
We have a
titles
lot of
around
unofficials
here.
here.
Yes, we don't have titles. We are all equal. We all contribute to the bee club just as much as anybody else. And so, but he's the one that is most knowledgeable. He follows the weather, different things, knows what's going
Seasons.
on, the seasons. And so he passes that information to the rest of us of what to be looking for. And one of the things we talk about in the fall is someone will say, my goldenrod is now blooming, and then everybody starts paying attention to when their goldenrod is blooming and when our fall honey flow is going to come, because that's important for the bees to get through winter.
Yeah. And our club is a little bit, I should say a little bit, we are a very social club.
Yes.
We do not have a standard place we meet. We meet at different members' homes, and during the season, we'll actually go visit their beehives.
That's what I was going
to
say.
see
Yeah.
how they're doing it, what success they've had, what failures they've had, exchange ideas. It's really hands-on. And that's one thing I like about it. And of course, I should tell them the joke about our club too.
I always get my one joke every time you're here.
Okay, well, some people claim that we're actually a dinner club that likes to talk about bees, because usually we have a meal with our meetings, and it is very relaxed, very laid back. Where if you were to go to Rolla's Bee Club, they're a lot more studious. I mean, just in the way they sit in the room and the presentations that are done. So, if you want something that's more laid back, you may want to come to our bee club. If you want something that's more studious, you may want to go to Rolla. There are several bee clubs around.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there are several. There's one in Rolla. There's one in St. James.
St. James, yes.
St. James, yeah.
And then the Fort Leonard Wood area has one of their own. There is one around the West Plains area.
Yeah. And you could go to is it Mid-Missouri Bee Club Association or something like that? Google that.
Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, and it will show you all the different clubs throughout the state. And for people that, really want to or are thinking about getting into it, that's what I highly recommend is tie in with a club, get under the wing of some mentors and, learn things. And, I could go on and on about the things that I've learned from this club. Another thing is we call ourselves a club. We don't charge dues. We're really laid
We
back.
ask you to be an active
It's an
participant.
unofficial club because it's unofficial.
Yeah,
everything
exactly.
else.
But what Brenda was saying about,
We ask you to be an active member of the club. We take care of everybody. If I can tell this on Tom, that he had gotten an injury a few years back.
I remember that injury.
And
yeah.
so, but all that took for him was a phone call to a club member to say, I need my hives checked. We're in the middle of a honey flow season. This is a critical time. And so we all get together and we plan a time and we're out the door and we're at Tom's. We lost a member recently, but he had had surgery, came home, and his hive stand had fallen over and he had lost 3 hives completely at that point in time. Within 15 minutes, he had 7 beekeepers in his yard that restored those hives. And then a week later, we came back to make sure that the queens were still there and that he was not losing anything due to that. We've had one member who ended up breaking her hip. We took care of her hives while she was down. But again, all of those members that we do that for have been active members. Tom was immediately over to help get those hives up that was on the ground because we had helped him, and we take care of each other. Another thing that we do is in the honey flow season, the bee season, we have our bee days. And so you sign up and you say, I want the club to come here this day, and we all jump in and do the work that is due. So one of our members has roughly 25 hives. So we head over and we break up into groups, we pair up and we take a few hives and we do the work that is needed to be done right then and there. It helps him, he helps us.
And the new beekeepers, they get to come along and say, oh, I've seen that in my hive. Is that what that's about? Or I haven't seen that yet, or maybe you've got an issue we need to look at. And it's a real, I look at them really, the bee days as a learning experience.
Yes.
Because in fact, they tell you when you start bees, a lot of people recommend you start with 2 hives so that you have something to compare the other hive to.
Yeah.
Because you'll find your hives are as different, Stan, as you or I, or you and your brother.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a friend who had 4 hives, and he told me that very same thing. He said, I tried to start out with 1 hive. He goes, boy, was I stupid. I said, okay, I'm not arguing with you, but, he goes, no, because I saw it. He goes, what was happening? I didn't know if that's the way it's supposed to happen or not. He goes, so he contacted the regional bee club that they had, that was in St. Louis, and they said, no, they wanted you to have at least 4 hives.
Oh, wow.
At that time, because because you're going to see different things in each hive. Mm-hmm. More than likely, he goes, now you're going to get a good experience. He goes, but don't put them all just right next to each other. Give them a little spread. And he goes, you may actually have different bees from hive 1 to hive 4. He goes, you're going to learn something. And he did. And, I remember he was a kid though, which is what I'm bringing up right now. You don't have to be any age to be a beekeeper. You don't have to be 18 or you don't have to be 21. You could be a younger person just wanting to learn. It could even be an FFA project.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. My daughter does it for FFA.
That's what I thought,
she has taken over one of my hives. Also, we are family oriented. We very much encourage the entire family. Just Stan, if you have an interest in bees and your wife and kids, maybe they don't, but we eat and we have a good time, and there's children of all ages. There's adults of all ages. Come on.
Exchange students.
I particularly enjoy when the little kids are around. Tom and Sally have taken the initiative of getting extra bee suits for the club. So if you want to come and just experience it, see what it's all about, try us out. You don't even maybe want to be a beekeeper, but you have an interest in bees and want to learn about them, come on. We have extra bee suits. I particularly like to suit up the little kids, take them out. During bee season, we can find drones. Drones don't have stingers, they don't sting, so you catch one, you give it to the kids. They get to play with it and handle it and realize that there's not really anything to be afraid of. And then later on, when a worker bee does land on them or is near them, they don't immediately start swatting at it or panic and then end up stung. They just automatically think that the bees won't sting them and they're good to go. I have a friend of mine in Springfield. He has a large apiary. He takes the younger classes on a tour through his bee yards. They do not suit up. His only requirement is that they wear tennis shoes and jeans. He'll suggest long sleeve shirts for the kiddos if it's not too hot. He said he had one little girl show up in a skirt one day and he was a little concerned about it, but he doesn't make a big deal out of it. The kids don't make a big deal out of it. And she actually accused a little boy of pinching her on the back of the leg because she had gotten stung. And they all knew that she had gotten stung. They checked it, got the stinger out, and just went on about their day as if she had just gotten pinched. She didn't even realize that she had been stung.
Well, we're talking about the Mark Twain Beekeepers going to have a beginning bee class. That's why we're really here to kind of to get this interest. If you have an interest in being a beekeeper, you don't have to. We're talking about younger people here, but you can be a little bit older as well. You know, and if you're just, especially if you're retired, maybe you are tired of sitting there, watching reruns of everything, and you're getting sick of seeing the reruns of reruns. This is a great way to take some time and find a great, I won't even say how, in some cases, hobby, but in other cases, maybe even, kind of a little side business like Tom does with his honey. It's not 5 gallons, it's 5 gallons. That's a lot of honey.
Oh, yeah.
I get a little 3-ounce jar. Maybe 2 ounces. No, I'm kidding you. I really. Tom's got some excellent honey. That's why I always give him trouble when he used to bringing me honey. I said I need more. Well, I don't have any more. It does run out, so it's not a continual flow of things. It's not like oil coming out of the ground. It just does kind of slow down in some seasons. But there's opportunities for other people to get involved and do this. And as we were talking about earlier, how important bees are. Having more beekeepers in our area will only enhance what we currently have right now. We have some beautiful gardens, too, that, they get more beautiful because the bees are actually there and pollinating those flowers. And, and that might bring up another question that I might throw out here in just a little bit about with the garden clubs and things. Do they talk to you guys about helping pollinate?
That's interesting. I think Sally's Garden Club, there's 2 in town. I can't remember which one she's a member of. But I think they had me speak once about it, but that's it. And I'm trying to think. No.
I done a presentation through the extension, but I don't really remember 4-H.
That's all right. I'm getting there.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. I did an extension one through the 4-H. I done a presentation for them once. We get a little bit of interest.
Yeah.
I did a presentation of bees to the art club down at the Viburnum High School as well once.
Well,
so we get out there a little bit.
And we did do one, or I did one for the community garden here in town.
Right.
And this year they want me to do another one. So.
And it's very important because you see what bees do. You see what impact they have on those gardens, and some people like to try and make it their own hybrid. And they can do that. You can do bees. You have this plant here, this plant here. You get the bees together, and you can get a hybrid. You can make one happen. So, if you're interested in botany, one of those words that I never really was, but there's a lot of people who are. If you're interested in bees, you can see there's a tie-in. There's a lot of tie-in to sciences, all different kind of sciences. Well, let's talk a little bit about this beginner's bee class. So, Mark Twain Beekeepers, this laid-back, unofficial club, is putting together a opportunity for you to learn how to be a beekeeper.
Yes.
Okay, so first off, we don't have a date yet, do we?
We do not have a date. We've kind of left that tentative to interest. If there is a lot of interest and people are willing to meet for a class, then we will most definitely hold one. With some of the COVID restrictions, we know that groups are kind of frowned upon, and people are a little cautious of being around other people that they're not necessarily familiar with or around often. So the way we have it set, we want a deadline to register by the 20th. And by that, I just mean
Of February, obviously.
Yes,
I know
the
we're
20th
not.
of
We're past
February.
that in January, but 20th there's 11 more of them.
That's true. The 20th of February. Just get a hold of me, and we've got the contact information is Mark Twain Beekeepers at Gmail.
Okay.
Or there's Greg Tivnan, and he is our unofficial president, and his phone number is 689-2254. You can call him, leave him a message, or you can email. Email
Okay.
is great. I check that daily. But just let me know that you're interested, that you're willing to come to a class, that sort of thing, and then we will officially set a date and time. We generally host those on Saturdays. They're from like 8 to 4. And we feed you. We feed you well. We are a food group with a bee interest.
Is there honey?
We do usually have
Yeah,
honey
somebody
if
should be
someone
bringing
has
it.
it.
Yeah, very good.
We sweeten our teas and a lot of things with the honey at the bee
Right,
clubs too as well.
One of my favorite drinks at night: hot tea and honey.
Yep.
So there will be a cost to the class. The cost is dependent on the meal that is being served and as well as any handouts or books that will be ordered for the class. The book that we normally use, which is the Idiot's Guide to Beekeeping, is no longer in print. So we're looking at how we're going to replace that or if we're going to replace that information. But I can guarantee you that classes will always be under $40 a person. And we are nonprofit, completely nonprofit. So every dime that is paid goes into the class and the lecture, the food,
Okay.
and the handouts. I take it upon myself to get a hold of all of the distributors of bee supplies. So we get many, many catalogs. You can see the different prices, who orders what. And you're free to order whatever you want from whoever. We also have club members that build equipment and take care of things here. You get their information, know how to get a hold of them if you want to buy locally. And
So in this beekeepers class, you'll be learning all about this type of thing, about creating the box, like you said, that you put together, and lo and behold, hey, wait, this is for beekeeping.
Right.
Yeah, you'll learn about that. You'll learn about contacts, and you'll learn about different things. Obviously, being an 8-hour class with an hour for lunch, I'd assume.
yes,
There's a lot of information that's being given, either a little bit of hands-on here, and then
Yep.
also some educational experience. You talked about a booklet, kind of probably walking through some different things about bees and how to handle them, and probably the garb you need to have. I think everybody's seen
Yes.
Jake from State Farm doing his little thing with his bee suit on. He's not dressed to see the queen. I thought, but to me, showing that kind of in a commercial may expose it to a lot of kids, especially at Super Bowl time, about what beekeeping is all about. That guy taking the honey out and taking a bite out of it, which I wouldn't do. Of course, you obviously tell he's a beekeeper. He knows what he's doing. When you look at the different amount of things that are going to be taught at this class, when you get done with this class, you should be able to actually start your own hives.
yes.
Oh, yes. It's very hands-on. We will have, because I help teach part about equipment. We'll have equipment. People can see what the equipment looks like, why some people prefer this type of hive tool versus that type of hive tool. I usually will bring at least, I have a regular Langstroth. I've also got a hold of a Weary hive. There are different types of hives. No, we do not have a flow hive that we can show you as a demonstration. And again, that's a whole different topic, okay? But with the types of hives that you will come across, there's what they call Kenyan hives or vertical hives, or horizontal hives, I should say.
bar.
Yeah, top bar hives. And we'll go over all of that. Types of suits to wear. And me, I prefer the word frugal.
I say tight.
Yeah, yeah. My first bee suit was nothing more than a veil and a good stiff shirt that I got from the Salvation Army. Because, for me to spend, and this is cheap, $50 for a full veil jacket, I wasn't willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that I'm in it more, and
Well,
yeah, okay, I'm going to do that. And we'll show you different ways of how you can get into beekeeping and not spend an arm and a leg. Because trust me, you can spend an arm and a leg.
well, you can always get the Cadillac of all the bee equipment, right?
But see, that's the other side of the coin. You can build it.
Yeah. But you could buy the Cadillac if you wanted to.
Oh, you can buy the Cadillac
or
if you want.
you can build the VW.
Yeah. So, and we teach that in the class and resources where to go to find those things out. And trust me, there's tons of resources out there to learn these different things. In fact, Greg turned us on to a new website. It's called Bee Hacks, which I joined this week. And I didn't know they were going to do this, but they listed all the new club members. And there are literally people from all over the world. I don't recall seeing anyone from Central or South America, but there was Puerto Rico, Africa, Russia, Nepal, Northern Canada, England.
Right now, there's not a lot of bees in northern Canada that are out playing around.
Well, I'll have to tell you about the Saskatchewan queen bees after this is over.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure there is, but right now it's like minus 35. They don't want to be out there. Nobody wants to be out
No,
there.
they're not. And the bees are hunkered down in their hives,
Yeah.
and they're keeping each other warm and happy. And that's the thing about them. They have developed in these colder climates, and they know how to survive. And we will teach about that in the classes. So, like you were saying, Stan, if you're not even curious about doing it, but you're curious about learning about them, come on to the class.
Yeah.
Come to our meetings. In fact, for many years, I forgot his name.
Bill.
Yeah, back in his younger days, he took care of bees, but he stopped and he just likes being around people that raise
That do,
bees and
yeah.
talking about it. So it's a very laid back group. The class is very informative and very hands on.
Well, if you're interested in this is a great thing for you to do, to attend, because you're going to get, first off, plenty of information. Remember, the bees don't read, but they're going to have books for you that you can and learn about. But again, the knowledge of beekeepers is really what will help you get over the hump. Because you're going to find when something happens, you may not have the answer. You can look in a book forever. There's probably one line somewhere that answers that, but you can't find it. You don't have time to look for it. Friendly call to one of your neighboring beekeepers, and they say, "Oh yeah, well this is what you do for that," and keep it simple. But that's the beauty of the club.
Yeah.
And Stan, I want to mention that Mark Twain Beekeepers, one of the biggest thing about our club is that we are treatment free. So we do not place any chemicals into our hives. We teach you how to raise your bees successfully in Missouri, in this area particularly, without any of the chemicals, everything is organic.
Yeah.
Very
And
good.
trust me, that topic alone in the bees around the world is a big topic.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of insecticides and stuff out there, and there's a lot of other everything from probiotics and everything that people want to add to stuff. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
It was fine. Nature did what it was supposed to do a long time ago, and it still works.
Yes.
You don't need to go do that. We talk about this class. We don't know exactly the date, but you really like to get a good idea how many people would like to attend, simply because they need to find a location to give you the space.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different places around. If they're going to have 10, you could possibly do a smaller location. But if you're going to have 25, that one location may not work. So if you are interested, please let them know. And again, they'd like to have an answer from you by the 20th of February. And then now there's a $40 charge. Is that
It'll be
Around,
it will
no
never
more
be
than.
more than $40.
No more than. Okay, let's put it that way. So there will be they'll figure out and they'll let you know what the charge is. And then
Yes.
that payment will be due sometime in March, right?
Yes, probably around March 13th to the 15th, somewhere in there.
Okay, all right,
I
very
need a
good.
couple of weeks to gather all of the supplies to get things
Sure.
ordered and everything get in time for class.
Don't know what that cost's going to be till you have to do it.
Absolutely.
And then more people attend, the less that cost might be.
Yes.
Very good. So, and don't forget about lunch, which lunch will be provided. So if you're interested in becoming a beekeeper or being part of the Mark Twain Beekeepers Club, which is unofficial, by the way, but they have a lot of fun. They have a
Yes,
lot of
we
great
do.
dinners, right?
We do.
There you go. You might want to get in touch with Greg or just go to the email. And that's, again, you want to tell me that one is, Brenda?
Mark Twain Beekeepers at Gmail.
Pretty simple. Mark Twain Beekeepers. That's B-E-E, not Aunt B kind of E-A. No, B-E-E, Keepers. And at gmail.com. Go ahead, send them an email, and all you got to do is just let you know who they are, and just
How
give
many
them
people?
right. Send them back an email. Say, hey, I'd like to be contacted when you're ready to do this, and count me in.
And we usually do a discount if a couple wants to come. And couple is a loose term here. I'm not talking specifically husband and wife,
Right.
but mother, son,
Right.
father, daughter. Tom and I can register as a couple and say, hey, we just want to come as friends.
Neighbors can do it if
Yes,
you want to.
yes.
And I was just going to ask about that. Is it can a family come if they wanted to? And obviously they can't.
Yes, and we will make accommodations of cost for that. Obviously, because if it's a family, you're not going to need 5 books and that's the thing with a couple. Somebody's going to have to. Tom and I would have to fight over who's going to get the book if the book is provided, but
Cool. We can have championship wrestling there too.
but that is the only thing with registering as a couple to get the discount is you're only getting part of the supplies.
So very good. So if maybe you've got a child coming in and getting ready to go into FFA, and they say, I want a project and I want to do beekeeping, and you know nothing about it, and as a good parent, you're going to say, sure. I will do whatever my child wants me to do, but you possibly need to learn about bees as well. So sign up for the class, learn about it, and I think it's a great idea to have. If it does become a family, it'd be a good idea to have somebody as a backup. As you said, it's a great way to learn about this, but also it's a great way in case somebody's ill or somebody has an activity that the other person can go out there and take care of the hive as well.
So I have one more thing about the bee class,
Okay.
and that is a testimony from current members of the club right now. And they had actually started beekeeping before they came to a beginner class or before they had attended any of our meetings. And she said, we started beekeeping with 2 hives in the spring. By December, we had lost 1. We attended the Mark Twain Bee Conference in February, and the knowledge that was gained was immeasurable. With the help of the Bee Club, we now have 4 thriving hives. I highly recommend attending before starting, but it's better late than never.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things, just because you've been a beekeeper for years or you think you've got it, join the club. You might be surprised at
There's
the
always
knowledge
something
that
to
is
learn,
out
right,
there.
Brenda? There's always something to learn. And that's always been anything you do. You might think, oh, I know how to do that. I've done that before. I know how to do that. Okay. Well, you know how to do it your way. There's a lot of other ways it's being done, and some of them may be much more fruitful than your way. But you don't know that because you've put yourself into that tunnel vision. I can do it. I've done it. Be open to suggestions because you can learn a lot. And we talk about hybrid, maybe a hybrid hive, maybe something's not even been tried yet. You might want to try. And then maybe fire that out at a dinner, unofficial dinner. Well, I guess they're official dinners. They really are dinners, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they
Yes.
really are dinners. Well, okay, at one of the dinner meetings, you might bring that up to some of the beekeepers. Say, hey, I've been thinking about this. What do you guys think? Get some good feedback.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're on that bubble, whether you want to try it or not, get the feedback, and you say, I think that might work. And then you might get some assistance from another one of the members of the club,
Yeah.
which is
And,
always good.
What was Greg's phone number again, in case you wanted to call?
573-689-2254.
All right, very good. Guys, we really appreciate you coming by. And again, this beginner bee class, there's no date set for it yet, but they would like as much response. If you're interested in being a part of the Mark Twain Beekeepers, they would love to have you. And of course, this beginning bee class can help catapult you into
We are looking at late March.
Yeah.
Like I said, probably around that last Saturday, first Saturday in April, somewhere in there, because people will start ordering their packages and their nooks around the April month. So you want to be able to get started and have the knowledge before
Okay.
you
Right.
order.
And actually, I just ordered 2 queens earlier this week. And so,
I bet people don't know that you can actually order bees.
oh, yes. And they'll ship them via UPS or the U.S. Postal Service. And, yeah.
More
Be-
information that you learn in the
Yeah,
class.
leave it, right?
Ooh, good one, good one.
That's a Tom Haynes kind of thing. Anyway, but nonetheless, it's an outstanding opportunity for you. And again, please register by February 20th for this. And again, marktwainbeekeepers@gmail.com or call Greg 573-689-2254. Brenda, Tom, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for
Spending some
having
time
us.
with us. We really appreciate that. And we're going to do our Bass Pro Outdoor program next. It's right here on KSMO Radio 1340.